Hey guys, it's Mark from the Sports Corner, and we are recapping week 3 of the NFL. And what a week it was. I mean, another bad beats from like last week. Last week was a bloodbath. This week was not any good, in particular with me, but I saw that the public got killed too. And just in general in football, what a crazy week. I mean, what a crazy season this has been so far. I mean, is there a dominant team? Who is the most dominant team in the NFL? I mean, is it the Chiefs? They've squeaked by 3 games in a row. You know, Mahomes is not having a great season. I believe he has 5 touchdowns, only 4 picks. Is it the Minnesota Vikings, who a lot of people thought were going to be fighting for fourth place in the NFC North? Who is it? Is it the Seattle Seahawks at 3-0? I don't think so. So it's been a crazy week. I'm not seeing any big favorites yet. This, it's only week 3, so maybe we'll see who they are in the coming weeks, who are the big favorites. But I'm not seeing it. I mean, there's so many teams that are banged up, so many injuries. 49ers, Rams, they're all banged up. The list goes on with so many teams. The Eagles now banged up. Kansas City losing the running back. A lot of good top teams are hurt. But this is the NFL. It's going to happen. Craziness is going to happen. A lot of teams who invest in running backs are looking good. The Eagles, looks like a lot of teams are going to the run game instead of passing all the time. And let's just start it off. A bad statistic for some people out there to hear this for their teams. If you are starting off 0-3, like the Bengals, the Jaguars, your team probably has almost no shot to make the playoffs. I believe the last team to do it, or the only team to do it, were the Texans of 2018. But man, some teams that have started off terrible this year. I know it's only week 3. We'll see who's going to pan out at the end. But if you're starting off 0-3 so far, you are not looking good. And the Bengals, man, all that money invested in that offense, if they don't make it, I mean, that's one of the bigger surprise. A lot of people had them going back to the AFC Championship or possibly the Super Bowl. So, I don't know what to say about this week. We're going to break it down, though, in this week 3 of each game. My thoughts, what I saw from watching all the games and rewatching some of the games, So let's break it down, week NFL 3 of this season. All right, and the first game we're recapping, which I thought was going to be a bit of a snooze fest, but not too bad. I mean, it was a snooze fest for the Patriot fans, my God. But the Jets versus the Pats. Jets cover the 6.5 handily. For the most part, God, the Patriots just move the May up. I mean, maybe move the May. I say move the May, get him some experience, but maybe you should protect him as well. How awful that offensive is. I mean, he might get exposed. He might get hurt because the Patriots' offense is non-existent. I mean, that's what happens. You just shut down Stevenson and Gibson like the Jets did, and then you just let the passing game try to beat you, and they have no passing game. I mean, Douglas had a good game, Brissett, eventually they took him out for May, but other than Douglas, there's nothing really positive, I got written down here in my notes. Jets look better. They targeted more people than just Wilson and Hall, so that's good. I believe they have a solid tight end and Coughlin. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. And they have I would say a 2-headed monster with Allen from Wisconsin, Madison. How that guy went to the third or fourth round is unbelievable, but that's good. I think the Jets really make a strong push here for in the rest of the season. If they just use that 2-headed running back with Hall and Allen, they could go pretty far. They look like a good 1-2 punch. Aaron Rodgers looked good. He had a passing rating of 118, so that is really great for him. That's vintage Rodgers. He's playing the lonely Pats, but I think he needed that to get his feet, to knock off the rest of the rust and get his feet underneath him because of that tore Achilles. So that was really good. The Pats just looked terrible. Sacked 7 times. I mean, my God, so that's why maybe you shouldn't start May, because you'd be saving him. Maybe if you keep him learning on the bench, if he keeps on learning from the bench, He'll keep his morale will stay high because if he plays, he might just get sacked and sacked and sacked, and he might have his confidence just shut down. You know, and what else can you get pulled from the Patriots that look positive? There's nothing that's positive for this game. They had a total of 120 yards passing. My God, it's like those are terrible numbers. I know Jets got a defense, but you would think because the last two games they were able to cover the 6.5, but they didn't even come close to even try to the Jets. It's like they gave up. I mean, they only had 52 yards rushing as well with their running back duo. It's like they just gave up, so there's not much to say from this game. Jets blew them out the water. You could tell it was a mismanaged. Good split carries from Allen and Hall. They look like they have really something going on over there. Lazard's getting the ball. Wilson's getting the ball. The tight end's getting the ball. They're spreading the ball around. So I know this might the Jets look good. I know it's against the crappy Patriots, but I think they needed this game to gain some confidence, get their feet underneath them, and get it going next week. But yeah, Patriots are terrible. They're gonna lose. They're gonna lose a lot of games this year, and they'll have a top 5 pick, I predict, in this NFL draft. And good win for the Jets. They cover the 6.5, so I can't wait to see them next week. The next game, which was the battle of the powerhouses, the Giants versus the Browns. This game, I thought it was going to be a complete snooze fest, and it was for the most part. Only the 8 points were scored in the second half, and the beginning looked fun, but then, we thought what it was, snooze fest time. These teams are both terrible. I mean, so, somebody has to win. I said last week, whoever got the 20 points first wins the game, and the Giants did. They got 21 points, so I was right on that. At first, I mean, let's be real. I didn't touch the game, but I thought the Giants were going to lose, and I thought the Browns were going to cover the 6.5 points, I believe. Right? Yeah. And it looked like it. The Browns were going to beat the Giants. They score right away on the fumble, and you're thinking like, oh, here we go. It's the Giants. They're being the Giants. But it was the Browns being the Browns that would stop them. And Cleveland fans, I am so sorry for you guys. You guys traded Watson for all those picks, and it is not looking like it's turning out. It might be one of the worst trades in the modern history. Maybe one of the worst trades since the Herschel Walker and Vikings and Dallas Cowboys trade. Herschel Walker was good, but Dallas, Dallas got so many great players from that trade and that draft. But the Browns will always be the Browns. They out-crappied the Giants team. So, it was two teams, and who's going to make the worst of it? And it was the Browns. Watson looked like a deer in headlights against the blitz. He was just terrible. The Browns offensive line, it's all banged up. So, the guy has to be out there surviving for his life. The Giants defense sacked him 8 times. 8 times he was sacked. Watson was hanging on the ball a little too much, trying to create a place, but he's not seeing the field. He's not seeing the field. Other than Cooper, throw it up there, and he catches it. I know they don't have their good tight end, but other than that, no Chubb either. It's terrible. They sacked him 8 times. He's hanging on the ball a couple times, which was his fault, but they also were eating up that offensive line. That's what the story is. Giants defensive line is won the game from them. From sacking him all the time. So, Neighbors looks great. Neighbors looks great. He was 8 receptions for 78 yards and 2 TDs. Had another great game last week. He's looking like the real deal. So great pickup by the Giants there. A great LSU product. He's going to be for years to come. It's going to suck as an Eagles fan, but he's going to be good for years to come. They have Danny Dimes out there as quarterback, so I'm not too scared of the Giants prospects because they're still a crappy team. But Myles Garrett, let's talk about the Browns here for a little bit more. The Myles Garrett got hurt, not good. If they lose Myles Garrett, they're not going to go anywhere this season. He is the heart and soul of that defense. Teams are just, they literally have to game plan for Myles Garrett. They got to keep him, watch him there because that guy's a wrecking ball. And they have no run game. The Browns just have no run game. I mean, they have 10 rushes. Ford only had 10 rushes for 37 yards. I mean, it's pathetic. And 69 total yards for the whole game. And Watson, he threw for a total of 196, which is not terrible, but he had a QBR of 27. So what do they have to work with? It's Amari Cooper and Watson, and that's it. And Watson's not so good. I'm sorry. And there's no run game. So with no run game and only hoping that Cooper catches the ball, praying that he makes miracle catches, the Browns just have nothing to look forward to. With the Giants, they had a really solid game all around. Jones, no turnovers, very surprising. Had a QBR of 73.1, so good outing for him, really good. Singletary, which I predicted he wasn't going to have a good game. I personally have him in fantasy, so I was glad to see that he got over 60 yards rushing and a touchdown, but he's been producing really good for the Giants. Really good pickup by them, solid pickup. He was cheap, so that was a good pickup from him. He was replacing Barkley, but I'm pretty sure they want Barkley back. But good signing, good solid signing. Their offensive line is holding up the Giants, so that's good. And they have a good 1-2 punch in Robinson and Neighbors. I think Robinson's solid. He's solid, so I think they have a nice low 1-2 punch. Giants actually have some here, even though I think they're a crappy team. They're not going to go anywhere this year. They'll probably finish last place in this division, NFC East, but they have some things to look forward to. Neighbors and Robinson, good 1-2 punch on the wide receiver duo there. Singletary's a solid running back, and Jones, if they get success on the run and he uses his legs a bit and just works off the play action, he could be, serviceable until they find a better quarterback, because they're going to have to. I'm sorry. That contract sucks that the Giants did that. But if they want to be successful in this league, they just can't have decent guys. They need a better quarterback to get the ball to Neighbors and to get the ball to Robinson. So, two teams who are not going to be there in the playoffs this coming year, but a solid upset win by the Browns, probably killing a lot of parlays there. So, props where it is. Snooze fest of a game, especially the second half. But the Giants, they upset the Browns. And the Browns, the Browns will always be the Browns. All right, well, another snooze fest of a game, which is, the Steelers' forte, as they're not looking to score 30 points, was the Chargers versus the Steelers. Steelers get a solid win against the Chargers. I think there's too much juice and hype on the Chargers. I mean, Colin Cowherd put him in his top 10 teams last week. He had him at number 3 because he has a hard-on for Jim Harbaugh. Good coach, but please, they don't have all those weapons he thinks they do. But a solid win by the Steelers. I know that the Chargers got banged up. The line, Herbert with another new injury, so I get it, but they weren't doing anything really on the field against the Steelers. Steelers defense looks unbelievable. If Watt stays healthy, then, they could possibly pitch something good here. Fields is being serviceable, 245 yards, 1 touchdown, only 1 pick, using his legs. Not so much this game, but he got a touchdown for his game. Harris, the running back, actually did some work. I don't like any of the running backs, Warren or Harris. Harris is too slow. Warren is average. Harris, I think, averaged 3.9 yards a carry. No, thank you. So solid win. All defense. The game was pretty close. It was a snooze fest of the game. But Chargers were up 10-7 in the first half. So Chargers had a puncher's chance in the beginning. But Steelers come away and they put them away in the second half. Classic Steelers game. Defense winning the game. Fields did all right. 245 yards passing, 1 touchdown. Had a QBR 55, so pretty average play. But their defense, held the Chargers for nothing. The Chargers, like I said, low overrated. It's Dobbins. Quinn Johnson's looking good, all right. But that's about it. Who else are you scared of that team? Edwards looks cooked. So I'd say it's Dobbins, Quinn Johnson, the other rookie they have, and Herbert. That's it. Their Joel's really good. He gets hurt, though, so their offensive line's a little banged up. But, Chargers had negative overall yards in the second half. Negative. So, yeah, great. Not looking good there, Chargers. TJ Watt looking like a defensive player of the year again. The guy, if he stays healthy, has another shot at it. The guy just sacks at the right time. He's there at the biggest moments, TJ Watt, So, he's a great, great linebacker for the Steelers there. Dobbins didn't really have a good game. 15 yards rushing, only 44 yards. And only averaging 2.9 yards a carry. Sucks for me because I had him in fantasy, so it didn't work out too good for me. Quinn Johnson looks good. He had another touchdown. Looked good last week as well. So, I thought the guy didn't have a good freshman year, but great back-to-back games for him. So that's something the Chargers could look forward to. Other than that, there's not really something the Chargers could hang their hat on. The Chargers were sacked 5 times. That's pretty much on par. Their offensive line was bagged up, and the Steelers' defense is just overwhelming. They only had 61 total yards rushing. Like I said, Dobbins was held back. Gus Edwards, he's not even getting that many carries. It looks like Dobbins has taken over to be the main back. Both quarterbacks had an average of 55, 53 of QBR, so they both were average. Amazingly though, this is an amazing stat here. The Pittsburgh Steelers, almost said Pirates there. Pittsburgh Steelers are only allowing 7 or 8 points a game from each of their opponents. So their defense is just rolling. Hayward looks like a beast. TJ Watt, this is the Steelers, that defense we expect from them. So, they're only going to go as far as their defense as well. The Steelers are only going to go as far as their defense. I am not sold on Justin Fields. I am sorry. I know he's gotten their 3-0, but it will come a time when he will throw interception when it hurts. So I think it's still in their best bet to throw in Wilson there, which I still think in the mid-season, maybe mid-season, they have Wilson start. When he's back to being healthy, he may jump in, because don't trust Justin Fields. Look what he did with the Bears. I don't care if it's a new system and a new quarterback. A new team. Sorry, and a new coordinator. I'm sorry. I don't like Justin Fields, and I don't think he's going to take Pittsburgh to the promised land. They're only going to go as far as the defense is going to take them. And I'm sorry, that's not the only thing that's going to... Defense doesn't win championships anymore in this league, okay? You need a higher-powered offense to win in this league, okay? So if I'm the Steelers, I am going to maybe possibly start Wilson and possibly still make a trade or two to have a better offensive weapon, because their defense can't carry him all season long. And TJ Watt might get hurt again. If he gets hurt, that'd be like a dagger into the chest for them. But a good showing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're 3-0. I think the Chargers are fool's gold. They're on the fool's gold list, so be prepared. So I think more losses to come. And Herbert's banged up. He might not play next week, but the solid win by the Steelers. Defense looks ferocious. So I can't look forward to seeing them again and just seeing that defense eat. Now let's talk about one of the most embarrassing losses I've seen this season. Even with all the upsets last week and this week, this was the most embarrassing I've ever seen. The Broncos come and slap the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just dead across the face at Tampa. The Buccaneers should be embarrassed by this. They scored only 7 points. No points in the second half Tampa Bay scored. The second half in general was a snooze fest of a game, as it should be, because the Denver have no offense. They let the terrible offense of the Denver Broncos come in and drop 26 on them. Unbelievable. They have one wide receiver in Sutton, no running backs, no tight ends. I don't care what any Denver Bronco fan says. You guys have no offense. It's just literally Bo Nix's legs in your defense that keeps you in games. And Buccaneers, this is just embarrassing. Just embarrassing. I know the teams beat up the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but a lot of teams have beat up players, okay? A lot of teams. I could go off a list how many teams are injured this year. Mayfield was sacked 7 times. My God. Just throw the ball or have slants. Have your running back catch the ball. I don't know. 7 times, unreal. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers didn't sack Bo Nix not one time. Bo Nix, this many times they sacked Bo Nix. So another embarrassment by the Buccaneers. Buccaneers should just move to Bruce Irving as the starting running back. He looks way better, more explosive than Rachaad White. White looks slow, stuck in the mud. I know he's a decent pass catching back. Maybe have him in pass catching situations, third down situations, but start Irving. You need a running game for this your two top wide receivers and Evans and Godwin to get out there in space and maybe possibly even on an island. But I don't know what to say. I don't know how they lose this game. The Denver Broncos are terrible. They have no offense. They just have defense. As you can tell, as they've been sacked 7 times. They sacked Mayfield 7 times. So, the Broncos defense, they're still not a good team. They'll be a top 10 they're still a top 10 worst team in this league. They'll get a good draft pick. They have no rushing attack. Just Sutton, like I said before. Starting to think, was Tampa Bay overrated? I know they got a good win last week against Detroit, but what does that say more about Detroit than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I don't know. So just an embarrassing loss by the Buccaneers. Bo Nix had a QBR of 80, like I said. Mayfield had a QBR of 10, which is god awful. Mike Evans was shut down. Rachaad White was shut down. Mayfield had 163 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, and he was sacked more times than he would like to. So just embarrassing loss. I'm pretty sure everybody got killed in this game. If you bet the favorite to even Buccaneers to cover, money line, survival pool league, they people just lost a ton of money on this game. I bet. I don't know one person who had the Broncos covering. I think Colin Cowherd's the only one who did, but that's because he loves Sean Payton. Sorry to break it to you, Colin. The Broncos are not making the playoffs like I think he predicted. So, no. And Bo Nix, good game. Best game he's had so far. It's just him out there and his legs. So, embarrassing. Embarrassing loss by the Buccaneers. Are we dealing some fool's gold here? Maybe. NFC South is a bit overrated in general. And an impressive win by the Denver Broncos, who will be one of the worst teams in this league. Embarrassing Tampa. Alrighty, well, in our next one, we have, which I thought was going to be a snooze fest of a game, but I was totally wrong. The Packers versus the Titans. The Cheeseheads versus the lonely Titans. What can you say? Will Levis, the guy just cannot stop turning the ball over. I had the Tennessee. I thought they would cover this game. I just thought he was going to turn around. I thought he was going to have a keep on growing from the Jets game. But no. Will Levis ends up with 2 interceptions. I think he may have had a fumble as well. But, the guy is just out of control. He's trying to do too much. Trying to make a play on hero ball. That's what it is. Hero ball. Will Levis, like I said, is a poor man Carson Wentz. Packers absolutely pounded them, killed them, So, Malik Willis, hey, are we having a quarterback controversy here? Malik Willis is put up some decent numbers and really efficient. So are we? Is he going to replace Love? No, I'm just kidding. Love is totally the quarterback there. He got that fat, rich contract. So just kidding. But Malik Willis has looked good. Good game planning with LaFleur with him. And also the run game. The run game just gashed the Titans. The Packers at 188 yards rushing, including Malik Willis, who had 73 yards rushing himself. So, he looks like rejuvenated, and he was just falling. He was just nothing when he was with the Titans. So him coming back and beating them, I'm pretty sure he loved that. But like I said, 188 yards rushing. By the Green Bay Packers, and everybody joined in on the fun. Malik Willis, their backup running back Emmanuel Wilson, and Jacobs with a lighter load during this game, which is probably pretty good because he was ran into the ground with the Raiders. And their fast wide receiver Reed got in there for 19 yards on 2 carries. So great planning by the Packers the last 2 games, running the ball, and making Willis throw not that much, because that's not his strong suit, but he still looked good. He was 13 for 19 with 1 touchdown and no interception. So great game planning by the Packers. They knew what to do, and their defense just had their way at the Titans. I mean, Levis was sacked 8 times. 8 times the man was sacked. Now, a lot of that's his offensive line, but a good amount of it is also Levis just holding onto the ball and playing hero ball, trying to make a play happen in every single play, every down, just trying to make a play happen. And the Packers made him pay for it. They pulled a card out of the Pittsburgh game, just sacking the quarterback as much as possible. I mean, God, the Titans should be embarrassed. They barely lose Pollard. They only had 11 carries total for 33 yards. So, if Levis is gonna be successful in this league, the Titans want him to be successful. They need more for the running game. They need to commit more to the running game. 11 carries only, 6 for 14 yards for Pollard, and only 2 carries and 7 yards for Spears. That's pitiful. They need to do a split here. Not Levis throwing 34 times, 40 times a game. He did 26 for 34 in this game. That's not a formula to work. So, just bad decisions all around from the Titans. Hopkins had a good game, 6 receptions, 73 yards, 1 touchdown. So that's something to look at. But other than that, this was just a shellacking by the Packers. You have to start thinking now, is Will Levis a bust? I think it's looking like he's a bust. I know it's only a year and a quarter of it's having a quarter year for the NFL season, but a year and 3 games. But I'm sorry, this hero ball needs to stop. He looks like Carson Wentz, but worse. Trying to make something happen, I think he is. I just think I don't see it. They're probably going to give him another year to see if he's worth it. But he has weapons. He's not getting to the weapons. Riley, Hopkins, they also have Tyler Boyd, so I'm not saying Calvin Riley, 1 reception, 9 yards. That's not going to pan out. You sign that guy, give him big money, and this is the results? No, not good. Like I said, only 11 rushes, lousy coaching, sacked 8 times. That's terrible. Levis just can't read the field. I'm sorry, he can't. That's something that's, he could possibly work on, but how? You're in your second year as a pro. There should be some progression, and there's nothing. This is just, he's terrible. There's no creativity by the Titans or the offensive coordinator, none whatsoever. That could be a fault of Levis, but not seeing his reads, seeing his his projections, his steps, So, I don't know. The Packers, a lot of people picked them as their darlings to represent the NFC. I think Chris Sims had them going to the Super Bowl. Let's pump the brakes on that. The team they played that was actually worth anything, my Philadelphia Eagles, they lost. The Eagles put a 30-piece on them, so let's don't get too excited, cheeseheads. You just got done playing 2 terrible teams with 2 quarterbacks who love turning the ball over, and Richardson and Levis. So let's pump the brake on that, Green Bay Packers fans. You got the wins on the teams you need to get the wins on, so that's good. But, you didn't look so great against the Colts. So let's see how they do against the Vikings, which will be a good matchup. So let's watch out for that one. Love might come back. If it's Malik Willis, we'll see. They did some good game planning, but I would like them to see how they do with a good defense like Minnesota. But a good win by the Green Bay Packers. They blow them out. Willis's QB rating was 93, and Levis's QB rating was 15.3. God awful. But give it to the Cheeseheads. They had a game plan, rushing the ball, pounding the rock. They did, and they defeated a terrible team, and that's what you're supposed to do with terrible teams. You're supposed to beat them and keep on going. So good start for them. And staying in the NFC North, we have the terrible Chicago Bears versus the pitiful Indianapolis Colts. This game I thought was going to be a snooze fest. The first half was definitely a snooze fest, but the second half did pick up, so that was really nice to see. A little more action. But, like I also predicted, whoever scored the 20 points first would win this game, in which the Colts did. Colts win and cover 21-16. And, let's just start off with the Bears here. The Bears have weapons for Caleb, but what is it good for if the guy can't throw the ball? The guy has no time to throw the ball. Sacked 4 times. I guess that's an improvement from last week when he was sacked, I believe, 7 times. So, it's just ridiculous. He shouldn't be throwing 52 times. He threw 52 times, completed 33 of it for 363 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions, with a QBR of 36.1, below average. That's asking too much for a rookie quarterback. I don't care that he's thought of being one of the best rookie quarterbacks ever to come out of college. I'm sorry, that's way too many attempts for a rookie quarterback. But, what do you do? The offensive line is terrible, and they have absolutely no run game. No run game. The Bears' run game is just god-awful. Here we go. They got Roscoe Johnson, 8 carries, 30 yards. They have Swift, 13 carries, 20 yards. Again, how does it feel, Swift, leaving for money and leaving Philadelphia for that crappy offensive line? And Herbert with 4 carries and 9 yards. There's also some rushes by Caleb and the rookie wide receiver for a grand total of 28 carries and 63 yards. That is awful. An average of 2.3 yards a carry. Not going to cut it. Not going to cut it. And Williams needs more. He needs more for his offensive line and his running back. And now the Bears are 1-2, 0-2 at away, and I don't see them helping Caleb. I only see them hurting Caleb. The guy is going to be in a stretcher by the time the season's over because how many times he's getting sacked. So that they're not doing him any favors. There's just not much. I guess the positive things we could talk about the Chicago Bears, their rookie wide receiver, Adunez, I think you pronounce his name. Forgive me if that's wrong. He had a 6 reception yards for 112 yards for a touchdown. And Cole Kmet had a really great game. He had 10 receptions for 97 yards and a touchdown. He's a good weapon. And I believe DJ Moore had 8 receptions for 78 yards, which is solid play from him as well. So they got all the weapons for him except running back. Even if Keenan Allen comes back, I don't think it moves the needle at all because the man has no time to get to the quarterback. He has no time to get to his receivers. So when Keenan Allen comes back, I don't think it makes no difference. He needs a line, and they need to go and get one. Gonna get another player, trade a pick or of something. And I don't think they're gonna trade for running back. Who's out there, but. They need something more to help Williams if they want him to see him progress. They're not helping him. And, they need to fire their coach. I'm a true believer that they need to fire the head coach with the Chicago Bears. They need to get themselves an good offensive coordinator. If I'm the Bears after this, I'm calling the Saints offensive coordinator or the Lions offensive coordinator. They need one of those guys to come in and save this, to make Caleb Williams progress to a great quarterback. Or the guy's going to be eating dirt every time he says hike, and he's going to be a stretcher, and then he's going to leave in free agency. Because why not? The Bears haven't had a great quarterback. Their best quarterbacks is not Rex Grossman, but Cutler. Cutler's the best quarterback in probably their whole franchise. That's not great. That sucks. This is terrible. This is not the 1985 Bears anymore. Those days are over with. So they need to get that mindset out of them. Go get Williams more help. Go sign somebody off the street that's decent. Hell, go see if Jason Peters is available to play guard. or trade something to offensive line because this guy is just getting killed and they're not making great decisions. Did you guys see when they're on the red zone trying to run those plays and the Colts just stopped them? What the hell are they doing with that? Oh my God, just terrible decisions by the coach, and having this guy throw Caleb Williams throwing 52 times, just awful. And let's talk about the Colts too. Let's don't they did have a win. I wouldn't consider it a good win, but it is a win. They got their first win of the season, and they covered. So, but you know what? Anthony Richardson, the guy's accuracy is a problem. It's just a problem. The guy has another 2 interceptions. He had 2 or 3 picks last week. There's a good chance, I haven't looked it up yet, but he might be leading the league in interceptions. So that's a problem. I don't know why he had. So here's Richardson's numbers: 10 completions for 20 attempts, 167 yards passing, and no touchdowns, 2 picks, and a QBR 17.8. God awful. The man threw 20 attempts and only completed 10 of them with no touchdowns and 2 picks. Bears defense is good. Don't get me wrong. 2 great corners. So that's pretty good. But, come on. Colts only winning this if they have Jonathan Taylor, which they did, 23 carries for 110 yards, 2 touchdowns, averaging 4.8 yards a game. The game. So that's the formula they should be working with. Having RPO and Jonathan Taylor getting around 20 to 25 carries a game, with Trey Sermon getting more than 2 carries for 16 yards and 1 touchdown. They need Trey Sermon to get around 5 to 10 carries. And Jonathan Taylor. This needs to be a running team. I know they have Downs, Pittman, and Pierce, which is good weapons, but Anthony Richards has accuracy problems. He can't get the ball to this wide receiver. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. And when he doesn't really bad, and it ends up in an interception. So they need to just pound the rock. They need to focus on and use RPO and play action, and that's it. No fancy plays. They need to really bring it down to those, what I just said. And I think that's how the Colts stay possibly in games. Just use the legs of Anthony Richardson and use Taylor like crazy. And that's how they're going to do it. They had a total of 150 yards rushing from Taylor, Richardson, and Sermon at 4.5 yards a clip. So that's pretty good. Keep it like that, and use the play action. But a sloppy game overall. It was, pick city everywhere you can go. So, and the Bears, they just have to do something about that offensive line. It is awful. Williams is not going to progress. It's just going to get him hurt. So hopefully the Bears can make the change for Caleb Williams' health, because, Lord, a JV football team could sack Caleb Williams right now. That's how bad the Bears' offensive line is. But good win by the Colts, and hopefully AR progresses as well. And staying in the NFC North, and a very surprising game, the Texans versus the Vikings. And the Vikings blew the doors off the Texans. Unbelievable. It wasn't even close. They won 34-7. They not only upset the Texans, they were only 2-point dogs, but they could have been 20-point dogs. Wouldn't matter. They blew the doors off the Texans. The Vikings defense is legit. I said it before this game even started. When I was picking my games for week 3, they had a good defense last year, and they just added more to that. They added Grenard. He had 3 sacks against his previous team, the Texans. That probably feel good, sacking C.J. Stroud 3 times. And, Brian Flores outcoached Bobby Slowick. Bobby Slowick being the offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans, which is a lot of people, think he's going to be the next get a head coaching job soon. Brian Flores put a master class onto him, and Brian Flores has a history doing well against the Shanahan system, which this system is kind of based off what the Texans run. And he blitzes a lot. Maybe that's the key to beating it, but he blitzed over 57, 58 times a game. So great game planning by Brian Flores. He sacked Stroud and Mills 5 times total, so great. He got to C.J. Stroud and kind of shook him. He shook C.J. Stroud, sack him that many times, and they had to put Davis Mills in. They had to wave the white flag, and it's clear that the Texans miss Mixon. I mean, their running game was awful. Akers, not good. They had a total of 14 carries for 38 yards for all the rushing attempts at an average of 2.7. I mean, that is just terrible. That's not good at all. You need better than that to win a ball game. Nico Collins, 4 receptions, 84 yards. I believe he's still the leading receiver in the NFL right now. But the bigger and better games from Diggs, showing his old team up. He had 10 receptions for 94 yards. But, that's not much. So you can say C.J. Stroud was 20 attempts for 31 completions for 215 yards, and 1 touchdown and 2 picks. 2 picks and sacked 4 times. That is a masterclass by Brian Flores and the Vikings defense. Great coaching by the Vikings. Unreal. And let's talk about more of the acquisitions that are doing great for the Vikings on the offensive side. Sam Darnold, 17 for 28, 181 yards, and 4 touchdowns and no picks. You got that right. Sam Darnold, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Sacked 4 times, but the Texans have a really good defense. Good, not great. But that is great. If that's what you want to see from a guy you picked up on a 1-year deal, hoping J.J. McCarthy was going to be his replacement. But hell, if he keeps this up, Darnold, he only has 8 touchdowns and only 2 picks. I mean, that's great. And he's completing 68% of his passes so far in these 3 games. But that's perfect for a 1-year deal that this quarterback, this is a deal and a half. This is a $40 million year quarterback putting up these numbers. Now, will he fall back down to earth? I'd say it's most likely he does. But maybe this new system and the Vikings head coach, the guy seems like a bit of a quarterback whisperer. They almost made the playoffs last year. I think they had 8 wins, 9 losses, or 9 wins, 8 losses last year. And he had terrible quarterbacks after Cousins got hurt. And he made crap into gold almost. And he's making Darnold look great too. So maybe it's the head coach that's doing all this. But a great showing by Sam Darnold. This is what you want from him, And the other acquisition they got from the Packers, Aaron Jones. He had 19 carries for 102 yards at 5.4 yards a clip. And he also had 5 receptions for 46 yards and a touchdown for 9.2 yards a clip. Great production from Aaron Jones. Justin Jefferson had a good game too. 6 receptions for 81 yards and one touchdown. So that's good. You want to see that. But, Aaron Jones and Sam Darnold, great acquisitions by the Vikings. And those great defensive acquisitions too. Great, solid. They're just getting quality from all those guys they signed. And they're the real deal. I think they are. I think there's going to be some regression. But I think they have a good shot of winning the NFC North. Lions lost to Tampa Bay. Not really in the way Tampa Bay lost to the Broncos. That makes them looks like the loss even worse for the Detroit Lions. Packers, they look good, but they beat up on 2 crappy teams. The team that they actually played against, the Philadelphia Eagles, they lost. So we don't know really there. We'll see there. And the Bears are awful. They got that one game against the Tennessee Titans because Will Levis is garbage. But they have a good chance to win the NFC North and a good chance making the playoffs in general. The Texans, I think they have nothing to worry about. I mean, Mixon's going to come back. Like I said, they clearly miss Mixon. But the AFC South is garbage. Jaguars 0-3. Tennessee 0-3. They're probably not making the playoffs. Peterson's probably gone, by the way. But both those teams are not going to make the playoffs. Hardly anybody comes from 0-3. And they have the Indianapolis to worry about. And the Indianapolis are not going to go nowhere with all the turnovers that Richardson throws. So, yeah, a bad loss to the Texans. But I think they have nothing to worry about because the AFC South is garbage. But what you could take from this, a great win by the Vikings, a game to show the rest of the NFL that they are legit and they're here to contend. And I think they just have an all-around great team. And they have Addison coming back soon. I think he might be coming back next week or the week after. Regardless, another weapon added to the pie. Sam Darnold, I know, is a little beat up, but, if he stays healthy, they have a solid chance of winning the NFC North. And they have a big matchup against the Packers, which I actually can't wait to watch that game. I don't know who I want to win that game or who I think is going to win, but, man, it's going to be a really great game. So, yeah, really great, impressive win by the Minnesota Vikings. They have a shot of winning the NFC North, and the Texans, terrible, embarrassing loss. They really shook Stroud with those interceptions and sacks, but they're in the NFC South. We don't really have anything to worry about. Terrible division, and they'll probably win it with ease. In our next game, a game that I was a little surprised about, was my Philadelphia Eagles upsetting the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans 15-12. And I believe the number was the Saints were favored by 2 or 2.5. I was a little surprised that the Eagles beat them because the way we looked against the Falcons. I'm not going to get into that game, but they dropped the bag in that game. The bad coaching decisions by the Eagles, the terrible rush defense, the pass rush that's non-existent. That was all shown in the Falcons game. They couldn't get to Kirk Cousins. That guy never leaves the pocket. And Bijan Robinson and Aguilar ran over them. So I thought this was going to happen to them during the Saints, who looked like game busters. They just blew the doors off the Dallas Cowboys, and the Dallas Cowboys supposed to have this really good defense. Well, that looks like that's not the case. But I thought they were. But when you really think about it, which I mentioned in the few days ago before the game started on Sunday in my pick'em games for Week 3, I mentioned that the Saints never played a team with a rushing attack, and the Eagles just ran the ball them. Barkley is looking like one of the favorites for the MVP. I believe Jared Allen's probably number 1, but Barkley has to be shooting up there now. But let's get into it. The total yards, the game shouldn't have been that close, by the way. The game should have been that close between the Eagles and the Saints. When you look at the numbers, it should have been a 30-12 game, 27-12 game. The total yards, Eagles 460, and the New Orleans Saints 219. That is a blowout in yards. So they kept it close, Saints. Just bad decisions in the red zone by the Philadelphia Eagles. They need to clean that up. But, they got an interception off in the red zone from Hurts. They blocked a punt. So they were doing their ways to get in, keep the game close. The Eagles just need to execute better. I think when this team executes better, puts a full game together, they could blow out teams because so much talent on their roster. So Eagles, they win, but it was a tough win, and I say tough because a lot of guys got hurt. The whole right side, right tackle, right guard, both got hurt during the game, and Devontae Smith, which, by the way, I don't care what any Saints fan says, that was a dirty hit. The play was over. Smith was not going anywhere. And the extra guy decides to go in and just falls on top of hit Smith, okay? And the guy has a bad concussion. That's unacceptable. I guarantee there's some fines coming for the New Orleans Saints. And let's talk about Slay. That was a obviously dirty play by the Saints. I mean, is Bounty Gate back? Seriously, is Bounty Gate back? Are these guys have contracts on people's heads? Because the offensive guard keeps on going through his pushing Slay out of bounds. He clearly watched the tape. If you watch the tape, he clearly is looking up the New Orleans Saints. Offensive lineman. He sees that he is outside. He's actually looking at other players while he's pushing Slay, and he just pushes Slay, slams him into the ground, and hurts him. That was a dirty play by one of the dirtiest teams who love to have this reputation that they, Bounty Gate and all that. No, they're hurting players out there, and it was if any of all of them were clear, it was that offensive lineman hurting Slay and dragging him all the way offensive line and slamming him to the ground afterwards. I'm sorry. They should have threw that fat offensive lineman in the damn out of the game, and they should suspend him. But they're not. They're going to give him a fine. So whatever. We still beat the Saints. So the Eagles are hurt. They're down to their 3 and 4 wide receiver, but you know what? Barkley tore them apart. That 65-yard run, man, just burnt. He ran over 20 miles an hour in that run. Burnt those corners and safeties from the Saints. And I love the play that Goddard happened. The Saints safety in the corner, I think it was the Honey Badger, runs right into the corner like the Three Stooges. Boom, bang, they hit each other, and there goes Dallas. See you later, Dallas. I was hoping he would take it to the house, but a good thing he didn't. He took it some time off the clock. Man, ran up the field. Awesome. Love looking the Saints looking like the Three Stooges out there. But, also, let's don't forget about the Eagles defense. Eagles defense does great. They held Alvin Kamara to 3.3 yards a carry. He had 26 carries for 87 yards, holding him back when he was killing both the 2 previous games. Alvin Kamara were great. Eagles holding him to 3.3 yards a carry. Awesome. Love it. And when David Carr does not have Alvin Kamara, he is exposed. This was never going to keep up. This big play, chunk plays, whether it's Rashid, were not going to hold up. Rashid Shaheed, 0 receptions, 0 yards. How does that taste, New Orleans? When you stop Alvin Kamara, the run game from the Saints, David Carr, the one we all know, is exposed. 14 for 25, 142 yards, only at 5.7 yards a clip, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, of a QBR rating of 41. So, love that. David Carr is who we thought he is. Now, the Saints could still make the playoffs. I don't really know about that, but what a great stopping them. What a statement by the defense. It doesn't show up in the stats, but Carter for the Eagles was in the backfield of New Orleans all day. He was stopping the run, QB pressures. I knew David Carr was probably fearing for his life the way Carter treated those offensive linemen. And I'm glad Carter got in the face of those players for the Saints doing thumbs down like this. Good. I know a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people think he has an attitude problem. No. The Saints want to play dirty, get in their faces. Just like Gardner Johnson got in their face too. I love those guys who bring some spice to the defense and running their mouths. You need to do that to the New Orleans Saints. But you got to love it. Their offense couldn't keep this up with the big passing plays, and they just shown that it couldn't. They take away Alvin Kamara. They can completely take him away, but 3.3 yards a clip and that many rushing attempts, 26. That's not good. They keep him away, and it exposes the Saints that they're just dependent on Alvin Kamara to do great and for the play action. Olave had a good game. I'll give him that. It's one thing the Saints can hang their hat on. He had 6 receptions for 86 yards and 1 touchdown, and they did have 4 sacks in the game, so I guess that's one thing they can actually feel good about. But, I think the Saints are a bit of fool's gold. I think the whole NFC South is fool's gold. Just because the Falcons beat the Eagles, the Tampa beat Lions, and the Saints blew the Dallas, everybody jumped on their train and like, oh, wow, this team's so good. Like, holy moly. Yeah, no, I'm not buying it. Any team from the NFC South. So, a little more into the numbers here. Like I said, Barkley is having an MVP year. He ran for 17 carries for 147 yards, 8.6 yards a clip of 2 touchdowns. He also had 4 receptions for 9 yards. Dallas came out like, man, what a game. 10 receptions for 170 yards receiving. Man, and he had that long 61-yard reception. So even before that reception, he was at over 100 yards receiving. Devontae Smith, before that dirty hit, 7 receptions for 79 yards. So they're the 2 guys who the Hurts was depending on. If Smith misses any time, they need to figure out what they're going to do. They got to lean on Dallas some more and Barkley, but, You gotta love it. And Jalen Hurts had eight rushes for 25 yards for a total between him and Barkley, 25 carries for 172 yards at 6.9 yards a clip. So that's really great. In comparison to the New Orleans, they ran a total of 29 times at 89 yards at 3.1 yards a clip. Not good. So, Barkley, this guy's, MVP. This guy's got to be in the talks of it. This guy looks like vintage Barkley. I know the Giants are pissed off about that. They must hate that he's having a great year at the Eagles. Finally, he has an offensive line and other offense weapons that help him and free him as the running back that he is. So, the Vikings, not the Vikings, I'm sorry. The Saints, they have a lot of questions going into the next week. I believe they're playing Tampa, and the Eagles are playing Eagles are playing Tampa Bay. I'm sorry. So the Eagles are playing Tampa Bay, another tough game, but both teams are hurt, so we'll see how that goes. But I think the takeaway from the game is that the Saints, they were exposed. When you take away Kamara, they get exposed, and David Carr, it's up to David Carr to beat you. And I'm sorry, I don't think he's going to beat you. I think the Saints are a bit of fool's gold. We'll see. They have a good offensive coordinator, but great win by the Eagles. Great bounce back, showing the other league that they should have been 3-0. They dropped the ball. I believe they're still one of the top 5 best teams in this league, and I do believe the Saints are a bit of fool's gold. So just a great win by the Eagles, man. And I can't wait till they play Tampa, and I hope they just demolish Tampa as well. And the Saints, well, we'll see. I believe they're playing dirty, so we'll see with them. But fly, Eagles, fly, baby. And staying in the NFC East, a game that looked like was going to be a blowout, but ended up being a close game at the end. The Baltimore Ravens defeating the Dallas Cowgirls 28-25. This was the Derrick Henry game. 225 rushes for 151 yards with 2 touchdowns and 1 reception for 23 yards. Derrick Henry looked like vintage Henry, the man with just looking to cause pain, a train, just running up and down the field against the Cowgirls. But you know what? That's what you come from this game. The rushing attack killed the Cowboys because the Cowboys have no rush defense. 274 yards total for the Ravens, with Lamar Jackson getting 87 of that, and Justice Hill getting 33, and Henry getting the rest of it. That's just unreal. I believe the Cowboys have allowed the Saints as well to get 190 rushing yards against them as well. And they didn't let the Browns rush that much because the Browns have no rushing attack, and the Browns are the Browns. So the rushing defense just looks terrible. But you know what? The pass rush doesn't look so good either. They sacked Lamar Jackson 0 times. He had 12 completions for 15 attempts. Only 15 attempts, but because the rushing was just so great against the Cowboys. So just a terrible all-around for the Cowboys defense. There's nothing really they can be proud of. There's no turnovers no interceptions thrown by Lamar Jackson, and they got torched in the run game by damn near everybody. So nothing to hang their hat on. The Cowboys, Dak Prescott did look good. 28 completions at 51 attempts for 379 yards and 2 touchdowns, being sacked 3 times and a QBR rating of 52. So he was the only bright spot. Ferguson as well, 6 receptions for 95 yards. CeeDee Lamb, 4 receptions for 67 yards. But after those 2 guys, well, be honestly, after CeeDee Lamb, who are you scared of? Nobody. They have nobody. Ferguson's a good tight end. Okay. I think we need a little more from him to see if he's a really great tight end. Okay? But after CeeDee Lamb, who are you scared of? They have the worst running back room in the NFL. Rico and Ezekiel Elliott, awful. Awful, awful, awful. They ran only 51 yards, for a team total, 51 yards rushing on 16 attempts at 3.2 yards a clip. That's awful. They only had 68 yards rushing against the Saints. And they only had 102 yards total rushing against the Browns. And that's okay, I guess, 102 yards, but not great. Not great at all. And it's the Browns. So no rushing offense. No, they can't stop the run. And their secondary is not looking good as the past few years it's always been. So what do the Cowboys got to hang their hat on? They're 0-2 at home. 0-2. When the Cowboys were known to be the team, if you play them at home during the regular season, you're going to get your butt whooped probably. They always win at home for the majority of time, But there's something stinking in Dallas. This team does not look right. And I got to ask you Cowboy fans, okay? I know I'm a little happier because I'm an Eagles fan. Is this the all-in Jerry Jones team that he promised you guys? How do you feel about this? You guys are worse than last year. I'm sorry. You're 1-2 and 0-2 at home. So I'm not seeing. I don't know how they're gonna, approve this. They got to get somebody. Go sign or trade for somebody who could stop the run. Just put a big body in there because they're bleeding like a sieve to teams who could just rush the ball. So, and that's gonna be a problem when they play the Eagles and even the Giants and the Redskins. Redskins could run the ball with Eckler, Daniels, and Robinson. Giants, Singletary looks like a good pickup for them. And the Eagles got Barkley, who's an early favorite for the MVP and arguably the best running back right now. So Dallas has a lot of things to answer. Their defense is trash. Dak is out here trying to be Superman, trying to keep them alive, throwing 50 times. He's doing his best. CeeDee Lamb is trying to do his best, but I am seeing desperation from the Cowboys. And if I am a Cowboys fan, I am pissed at Jerry Jones, which I'm sure you guys are. I mean, the only thing I can say you guys can hang your hat on is that you probably have the best kicker in all of football. Tucker is not looking so good anymore for the Ravens, and Elliott for the Eagles is pretty good too. I'd say he's a close first or second place, but Aubrey looks like, man, he looks really great. But I mean, hanging your hat on only a kicker, that's not good. Not good at all. I mean, they almost came back and won, I get it, but that's because the Ravens secondary is not that good. It's not that good as it once was. They're missing the defensive coordinator, who is now the head coach for the Seahawks. They're missing him. Dallas Cowboys, terrible loss, 0-2 at home. I think they're missing Dan Quinn. And a good win by the Ravens. They're now on the board, winning their first game. So good win by them. They're not out of it, but I'm not really sold on them as well. They need to clean up. Their offensive line needs to be a little more better, even though they had no sacks allowed in this game, but they need to do better. Defense for the Cowboys, by the way, sorry, a little jump in this number. They're 30th in points per game allowed, and they're 29th in total yards allowed. So the Dallas defense is awful. So good win for the Ravens to get on the board. Not sold on them, and a terrible loss for the Cowgirls, going 1-2, but more particular 0-2 at home. Well, in this game, I wasn't expecting it to be a snooze fest, but it was. The Detroit Lions defeat the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona 20-13, with Lions covering the number. Good bounce back win for the Lions. The Cardinals, Kyle Murray wasn't Superman this game, so they lost. They kind of need him to be Superman to be in any contention in any game. He's a great quarterback, so, we'll see more good games from Kyle Murray. But, the Cardinals got gash in the run game. The Lions just need to run the ball and realize that they have a good offensive line and that they need to rely more on their two-headed running back machine. They had a total of 43 carries for 187 yards, with Montgomery going 23 and 105 yards rushing and a touchdown, and Gibbs going 16 carries for 83. So they need to realize that they should be a running team and just pound the rock, and then have Goff use that off the play action and getting Williams over the top or getting Brown in the middle. So, just need to realize they are a running team. Cardinals, I don't know what the hell they were doing in this game. Why are they not running the ball more? They got James Conner, and they got Trey Benson, which I believe they should use more. And they got Murray. But Murray, he led the team in rushing yards, and, they shouldn't. Conner should get more attempts. He only had 9 carries for 17 yards. What the hell were they doing? A total team 18 carries for 77 yards. That's not going to cut it. You can't have Murray playing your best running back and your best quarterback. You need Conner to get at least 18 to 22 carries and have Trey get at least 5 to 10, not 2 carries for 8 yards. So, Goff, back to Detroit. Goff kept it together. He had 18 completions, 423 attempts, 499 yards, and 2 touchdowns and 1 pick, and only being sacked twice with a QBR 44. And I think that's good. 23, 25 attempts, I think that's where you want Goff at, and having the rushing just kill the other team or try to kill the other team. I think that's where you need him. Let him do the accurate passes. Nothing too big, nothing too risky. And I think that's the recipe. That's how they beat the other teams. I don't think Arizona is going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to stun a few teams because they have the offense for it. But I think we saw the best of the Cardinals from last week, but I don't think that's a consistent basis. They can't be that great. I think they're going to be surprise people. Maybe they get 7 to 9 wins around there, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs with that. Decent game from Marvin Harrison, 5 receptions, 64 yards, and 1 touchdown. Wilson, 8 receptions for 64 yards and no touchdowns. And on the other side, the Cardinals, St. Brown, good game finally, or one of his better games this season. 7 receptions for 75 yards and 1 touchdown, and nothing too much. Laporta, 36 yards receiving, and Gibbs had 20 yards for 1 touchdown. So overall, a sleepy, boring, snooze fest of a game. But a good bounce back win by the Lions. They needed that. But other than that, I think that, the Cardinals are going to be fun to watch. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year. And the Lions, I think they're going to be there till the end, and they're going to be fighting for the Packers and the Vikings for first place. So they got to keep the pedal to the metal. And let's talk about the most embarrassing loss of this week, which was, I lost money on this. I'm pretty sure everybody lost money on this. Parlay bets, single betting, survival picks. If you did any live betting, you probably picked the 49ers to win. So you know who I'm talking about. The overrated San Francisco 49ers losing to the Los Angeles Rams 24-27. My God. If anybody watches this game, you are saying you're like, oh, 49ers have this. I know in the first half it was 14-7, but if you would have told me that the Rams going to the game are going without their 2 best wide receivers, a patchworked offensive line, I would have told you the 49ers are going to beat them 28-0. Okay? Talk about a great coaching job by McVay. He outcoached Shanahan. Clearly, this was the biggest upset, and it might be one of the biggest upsets of this year. I saw some books having the San Francisco 49ers favored by 8.5 or 8 points. I think the number ended at 7.5, and they totally blew it. The Rams were going to cover anyways, but now that they covered, they won outright. Unbelievable. Let's dig into the numbers. 49ers had, let's just see, this is the big difference between these two teams. If I told these numbers and then I told you the team with the worst numbers won, you'd be like, what the hell happened? Like, did the rest of the team get poisoned? Did something happen did they all get hurt in the game? No. 49ers had 25-19 when it came to first downs. When it comes to first downs, 49ers had 25-19. When it came to total yards, the 49ers had 425 to the Rams 296. They had more rushing yards, 137 to the Rams 98, and they had more sacks, sacking Stafford 3 times to the Rams only sacking Brock Purdy 1 time. Time of possession, 49ers had 33 minutes and 33.27, and the Rams had 26.35. So they had a 9 minutes more in time of possession, more total yards, more rushing yards, more sacks. If I told you that, you would think, man, that team who had all those, who had all the upper hand and all that, they had to win by 2 touchdowns. Not the case. And then when you look in the numbers a little bit more, you start understanding why they lost. They had more turnovers. Now, it's not a lot to say, but they had more turnovers. I believe they had 1 fumble that they lost against the Rams. Yeah, they lost 1 fumble. Not saying much. Brock Purdy fumbled. Okay, but 1 turnover, that's a lot, in a close game. So they had 1 turnover, but here's the kicker. They had 7 penalties for 111 yards, the 49ers. So you're just letting the Rams stay in the game. Just let them stay in the game. Penalty. Let them get a first down. Let them get closer to a first down with these penalties. Okay? And Shanahan, I read when I was looking at all the numbers that I believe he's lost a lot of fourth quarter leads. And this is becoming a little bit of too much of a trend for him that, like, okay, 49ers have the upper hand in the fourth quarter. Is Shanahan going to screw it up? We don't know. But just questioning it now, that kind of puts that in the other team's mind. Like, hey, we're down by the 49ers by fourth quarter, but we could come back and beat this team. I think they did that in the Super Bowl. They were up in the fourth quarter and they lost. So, 49ers are 1-2 and 0-2 in away games. So this is not looking good. And they're hurt, So this is not a good recipe. I'll give him this. Brock Purdy, a guy that I believe was overrated. I thought maybe, he's going to not do too good in this game without Kittle and without Deebo Samuel and without CMC. He had him quite a good game. 22 for 30 for 292 yards and 3 touchdowns with a QBR of 86 and only being sacked 1 time. So he really lit it up. Jauan Jennings, I thank God I picked him up in fantasy. 11 receptions for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns. He tore the Rams apart. But I think it's bigger to say, where's Ayuk? The new contract, big money Ayuk. Where is it? 5 receptions for 48 yards. He's been nowhere in the last 3 games. If I'm 49er fans, I'm like, where, what the F? What is going on with this guy? What did he do? Did he just get his contract and said, out the hell with it? Maybe he's rusty. I believe he wasn't practicing with the team. He's holding out. But I'd be pissed if I was a 49ers fan. Let's get in for the Rams side. The Rams, I thought it would have been well known by the 49ers that they were going to rely on Kyrie Williams. Kyrie Williams, 24 carries for 89 yards and 2 touchdowns at 3.7 yards a clip. Not great, but you know what? Smart plan, 24 carries. That's what you probably want to see when you have an injured team. You have no wide receivers to throw to. So good. But also, Kyrie, 2 receptions, 27 yards, and 1 touchdown. So a total of 3 touchdowns and over 110 yards, over 110 yards, purpose yards. So great game plan. Tutu Atwell, 4 receptions for 93 yards. He beat them for a 50-yarder, I believe. That was really great. He's really shifty, really small, but really fast. But this is a classic game that the 49ers set up the Rams to win. They shot themselves in the foot with the penalties, and that just killed them. It kept them in the game. And if you just look at the numbers, it's just unbelievable. You think to yourself, like, how did they lose this game? It's embarrassing. I would be just livid, which I'm sure the 49er fans are. They have a very lively fan base. Them and the Eagles go at it all the time. But you just look at all the numbers and it just screams Niners blowout. But they kept them around with the penalties, and they had a decent run game, 34-yard carries for 137 yards by the 49ers, but nothing to really write home about. Not too bad. I mean, Brock Purdy had 41 of those yards rushing. You don't want Brock Purdy out in space. He had 10 carries, so I don't think that's good. So 41 yards coming from Brock Purdy and only 77 yards coming from Mason, that's not good. Brock Purdy shouldn't be running that much, in my opinion. So they're missing CMC. I think they got a little fool's gold when Mason had that first game. He ran pretty well in the first game of the season. So he hasn't been doing that great since then. But classic. They pulled the Philadelphia Eagle, what the Philadelphia Eagles did when the Falcons came back and won. Rams with the biggest upset so far this year. I'm calling it maybe the biggest upset in this season, with an injured plague team come back and stun the 49ers, which, hey, they're 1-2 and they're hurt. They better watch out, because you know what? Seattle's 3-0. They're 2 games ahead of everybody now. The rest of the division's 1-2, so you know they could climb up to second place real quick. But they better watch out. I believe the 49ers will probably come out of it and be in first place, but there's a chance now that they might just not be as great as everybody thinks they are. There's some holes in that defense, and they're getting injured. So I would really, really watch out. But great win by the Rams, and what embarrassing loss by the 49ers. Man, wow. Well, here's a game that I'm embarrassed that I had the other side of it. The Miami Dolphins get killed by the Seattle Seahawks, 3-24, with Seattle easily covering the number. Bad pick by me. I mean, I thought the Dolphins would have used the speed of this team. They didn't have Hill or Waddle doing any rushing attempts. Skylar Thompson, why do they have Skylar Thompson as a backup? Or Tim Boyle? They know that Tua has injuries. He's prone to concussions. Okay? Why not spend some extra cash to have a good backup quarterback? Skylar Thompson is awful. 13 for 19, 107 yards. Whoopity-doo. Sacked 5 times. Tim Boyle, 7 for 13, 79 yards. Sacked once. QBR of 8 by Skylar Thompson. A QBR by Tim Boyle, 3.2. Awful. Why did the Miami Dolphins pay the extra money to have a decent backup? I believe they did. They had before. I think they got Bridgewater. Why not go out there and get somebody else? Stupid. I would have got Jamie Winston, or I don't know, anybody who was out there that was good. Mariota would have been better than Skylar Thompson. I mean, my God. So let's get in the numbers. Terrible decision by the Dolphins not using A-Chain more. What are they doing? I know you're down. Use the guy. 11 carries for 30 yards, 2.7 yards a clip. Jalen Wright, 2 carries, 17 yards. With a team total of 18 rushing yards for 65 yards at 3.6 yards a clip. Pitiful, awful. You have a terrible 7th round pick quarterback in Skylar Thompson, and you rush the ball that many times. I know you're down, but you just can't abandon the rushing tag just because the Seahawks put up 17 points in the first quarter. You still got to at least try to rush it. I mean, I'm starting to think that the head coach from the Dolphins, that guy might be all hype, all show. It's all smoke and mirrors. And then when they play a really good team, they go down the crapper. I believe last year the Eagles blew the brakes off the Dolphins. So, I don't know. Tyreek Hill, 3 receptions, 40 yards. Woohoo. I don't know how they'd have him running on any sweeps. So nothing really to talk about the offense of the Miami Dolphins. Just terrible, bad game planning. Did they even game plan for this team? I don't even know. let's get with the Seahawks. A little bit more with the Seahawks here. I am not completely sold on the Seahawks. I'm not. They have played three terrible teams. Three teams that have terrible quarterbacks. They played the Panthers, who had Young. They played Skylar Thompson, and I believe the Seattle Seahawks. The other team that they played good was the Patriots. Oh, never mind. I take that back. They play Bo Nix. They play the Patriots with Brissett, and they play the Dolphins with Skylar Thompson. So, no, that is not a, you beat three teams, and you're supposed to beat those teams. Don't get me wrong. You're supposed to beat the terrible teams, but let's don't start, crowning them the championship of their division, because, they showed up against three terrible quarterbacks. So, and also Geno Smith, serviceable, good, decent quarterback. But he has, I believe, I got written down here, he has 1 interceptions and 1 fumble to 3 passing TDs and 1 rushing TD. So he has the same turnovers and touchdowns. That's not that great. Not so great, okay? Next week, I think they'll be tested. Let's see how really good they are when they play the Detroit Lions. I'm going to take Detroit Lions in that one. I'll just say that right now. Zach Charbonnet looked good. He had 18 carries for 91 yards at 5.1 yards a clip and 2 TDs. Really sharp. He looks better than last year. They still need Walker. I think when Walker comes, that'll be one, 2 good punch. So that's, good news for them. They have weapons. 2 good running backs and 3 good wide receivers. And Metcalf, Lockett, and Jackson Smith, and a decent tight end in Fant. So they have good wide weapons. I just have to see them play against a good team. Their defense is really good. They have a lot of ball hawks, so I'm very impressed with that. Their rush defense looks really good too, but like I said, I got to see them do this against a good team. This is why I thought the Dolphins were going to cover the number. They have a bunch of weapons. They have speed. I thought they were going to use that, but God knows what they were planning for. I have no idea. It looks like they just want to check out until Tua comes in. They don't even know when Tua's going to come back with that terrible concussion he has. So, I'm not sold on that. Metcalf looks good. Back-to-back great games. The guy's a beast. And, the NFC West looks bad. They're ahead of everybody. Rams are 1-2. 49ers are 1-2. So they have a good chance. And Arizona's 1-2. They have a good chance of maybe winning the division. I think 49ers are still going to win it. But if they can win it, that's great. I mean, that probably means the NFC West is not that good. But I don't know. Great win, a good win by Seattle. Really kind of shows more the competency of Miami Dolphins. I think they're overrated. Overrated coach. Stupid not to have a good backup quarterback who could back up Tua. So we'll see. I think Miami are going to miss Tua. They're not going to be so great without him. And Seattle will be testing next week, and that'll be a good game. And I can't wait to watch it. In our next game, we have the Sunday night game that was the Chiefs defeating the Atlanta Falcons 22-17 at Atlanta. And, it was a great showing by the Chiefs' rush defense. I think that was one of the keys of the game, because Mahomes didn't look that good, by the way. He hasn't looked good this year, just to put that out there for people. They stopped Bijan, and they stopped Tyler Algier. The Falcons had a total of 25 rushing attempts for only 82 yards. Okay. B.J. Robinson, 16 carries for 31 yards. That is terrible. At 1.9 yards a clip. Ooh, I mean, that's awful. So good rush defense by the Falcons. They pit them. But hey, I mean, I think once you stop that, you stop the Falcons. The Cousins had an okay game. He was 20 for 29, 230 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, but a 31 QBR. Not good there. But, I don't know. I'm not surprised by this. I had the number. I had the Kansas City Chiefs covering, which they did. The number was 3.5 at some other places. But I had the Chiefs covering and winning. Because it was a good win against the Philadelphia Eagles. But they only had 15 points going into the last minute of the fourth quarter. They made that heroic, passing down the field on the Eagles and win the game. But it was the Eagles shooting themselves in the foot. They had the game win in the bag. So no, I'm not surprised that the Falcons lost. Now, there's something to be said about was that pass interference on Kyle Pitts. That's another thing we have to talk about. What's up with all these games with the Kansas City Chiefs that are close to being pass interference? They get the calls and the other teams don't? I mean, I'll let you Falcon fans tell me in the comments. But and I'll let you Chiefs fans fight. Let me know what you guys think. But I'm not surprised by the loss. I think they're overhyped. I believe they're overrated. But I think the Saints and Buccaneers are overrated too. It's gonna be a battle. Who's gonna win it? I mean, the Falcons are 1-2. Buccaneers and Saints are both 2-1. And hey, good win by the Panthers. Maybe that red rifle can rejuvenate that team and make it actually a really close division. I don't know who's going to come out of this division. I believe, like I said, all of them are overrated. The whole division is too many people were putting too much juice on them because they won some good games, some upsets. But back to this game, Kurt had okay game, but the Chiefs stopping run was really great. I'm not sold on the Chiefs. They won without Pachenko, which is really gay. I don't really care about Steele. 17 carries for 72 yards at 4.2 yards a clip. Not bad for the rookie. I'll give him that. Rookie, solid. Okay. A total team of 33 rushing attempts for 128 yards at 3.9 yards a clip. Without Pachenko, I don't think anybody's scared of that rushing attack. And he's going to be out for a few to several weeks, so we'll see with that. But Rashee Rice looking good, 12 receptions, 110 yards, 1 touchdown. By the way, is that guy going to get in trouble at all? I mean, what the hell happened with that? If they lose him to anything, that's not going to be good for the Chiefs. But more telling, Travis Kelce, 4 receptions for 30 yards. I said it before and I'll say it again. Travis Kelce looks cooked. I don't see it. I do not see the old Travis Kelce. Maybe he gets a little more juice when the season goes on, but that usually you have more juice when the season starts, not as the season goes on. But I'm sorry, he is not looking that great. He's still top 10 tight end, but he not some back games that he's just an average. Chiefs don't scare me either. 3 close games. And 3, they squeak by. They barely beat the Ravens. Ravens likely need to, if he catches that with both feet in the ground, overtime. They needed a pass interference to win the other game against the Bengals. Bengals had them on the ropes. And like I said, Mahomes is not looking like Patrick Mahomes. Now, this is Patrick Mahomes. The guy might change it, It's the beginning of the season, so I'm not saying it's going to be terrible. But in the first 3 games, he has 5 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Not looking like, Mahomes. Like I said, he could turn it around. But, just something to keep an eye on. This might be one of his bad years. And by bad years, I mean probably not as bad as other quarterbacks. A bad year for him is probably some good for some other quarterbacks. The key takeaway with this too is also that the Falcons have no pass rush. They have none. Mahomes wasn't sacked whatsoever. Hurts was sacked 1 time. Even with the signing of Judon, they're not getting to nobody, and that is going to kill them. You need to get sacks in this passing league. This league is all offense and passing. I mean, not all passing. There's now a lot of good rushing teams, and I think the trend is there going there. But the Ravens, they can't sack nobody. They can't get to the quarterback. 1 sack in 2 games. Not too good there, okay? We'll see. Like I said, Mahomes, QBR 58.2, and Kirk, a QBR of 31. So take it for what it is. Atlanta, they have a lot of work to do. They need to go sign another pass rusher if they want to do anything. They need to get to the quarterback, and they need to run the ball to be actually really great. I think that opens it up for Kirk. They need a good rushing attack so Kirk can be Kirk Cousins. And Mahomes, that look like Mahomes, but they're the Chiefs. Andy Reid, the best coach in all football, great game planner, so they're always going to be able with those two guys in. So it was a bit of a snooze fest game, but the Kansas City Chiefs go 3-0. Atlanta Falcons go 1-2 and 0-2 in Atlanta, which is not good. But I'm not surprised that they lost. So Chiefs, good win by the Super Bowl champs, and they'll probably be there in the playoffs again. Oh, and here's a real fun game. I had this team covering, not winning outright, but covering, and I took the over. I threw a last-minute bid on it because I just knew the Red Rifle, just like he did last year when he came in Week 3, he came and lit up the Raiders. Of a score, we got here 36 for the Panthers, defeating the Las Vegas Raiders in a massive upset. Well, the number is 5.5, so not that big of an upset in Las Vegas. Man, oh man, did the Red Rifle rejuvenate this team. Not just the offense. The defense looked like they were pumped up too. Like they were like so happy that, Young leaving, man, it must have just morally just was a great boost for that team, knowing that they had a fighter's chance now that Young is off the team, because this team looked great. Andy Dalton, 26 completions for 37 attempts, 319 yards, and 3 touchdowns, the QBR of 87, and he was only sacked twice. Chuba Hubbard, 21 carries for 114 yards, and he had 5 receptions for 55 yards and a touchdown. That's really great. If he's still there in fantasy, I would pick him up if he was still around. And Miles Sanders got a touchdown himself. A team total of 31 carries for 131 yards and 1 touchdown. But the real story here is that the Panthers really looked great. They looked rejuvenated. Let's get the numbers a bit. Okay. Like I said, Hubbard killed. The Deontay Johnson, 8 receptions, 122 yards, and 1 touchdown. Looks like what he did at Pittsburgh. Really good game for him. He was probably happy that was back, and he's like, he could look good once again because he finally has a quarterback. The Panthers' offensive line, I believe, is actually they're good. They paid some money to help that line out. It was just Young being terrible and holding the ball too long and making terrible throws. But their offensive line was really great. I know that he got sacked twice, but that's pretty good. The Raiders, let's be real. The Raiders are who we thought they are. Good win they won by the Ravens, but come on, man. Who here thought the Raiders were like, this was it? They beat the Ravens. I had the Ravens winning that game, lost money on that, but I did not once think the Raiders were, oh man, they're turning around. They still have, a shoddy defense. They have Max Crosby. That's the only guy you really fear, and that guy's a beast. But their offense. Who here is scared of any of their quarterbacks? Gardner Minshew or O'Connell? I don't think nobody is. Gardner Minshew, 18 completions for 28 attempts, 214 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, QBR 42. O'Connell, 9 for 12, 82 yards, 1 touchdown, QBR of 93. But nobody's afraid of this quarterback. And like I've been saying all season long, they have no rushing attack. The only team I would think that's worse than them is the Cowboys, but they're probably neck and neck as one of the worst rush offenses in this league. Zamir White, 10 carries, 34 yards. Minshew, 3 carries for 14 yards, with a team total of 16 yards and 16 carries for 55 yards and 1 touchdown, and Alexander Madison getting that goal line touchdown for them. Yeah, just awful. Trey Tucker led them in receiving. Trey Tucker should never leave you in your receiving when you had Devontae Adams on your team and Bowers. So I don't know what. And Jacoby Myers. So, great on Tucker gained those yards. He got off the most of it on 1 big reception for 54 yards. So, whatever. But, if I'm the Raiders, I'm throwing Devontae Smith all the damn time, and Bowers actually. So, the Raiders, they're not good. I'm sorry. One dimensional, no rushing tag, and all they can do is pass, and they don't have good quarterbacks for that. So they're going to be in the bottom 10 of the worst teams. I don't think you can rely on Crosby to be Superman again and play, out of his mind. The guy, he's probably going to run out of gas at some point. Last year, he was trying to do everything again. So, if I'm Devontae Adams or I'm the Raiders, I'm seeing what I can get for Adams. Adams, he's making bank. He got to be pissed that, he signed there because he was buddies with Carr. Carr leaves. Or was he traded to the Saints? I forget. Whatever. I'm asking for a trade. If I'm the Raiders, I want to get as much picks for him, or maybe young players who could play now, something that can help them. If I'm Adams, man, go ask for it, because you're rotting away with those terrible quarterbacks. So, great, awesome win by the Panthers. It was so fun watching them. I know they lost Adam Thielen, kind of bad there, but the Red Rifle was spreading the ball around. He looked good. The whole team looked rejuvenated, so it was a really good win, and it made Young look worse. Now it just looks like Young is probably sitting the rest of the year. You put him back in, it's going to be morally devastating for the rest of the team. And, let him sit the bench, let him learn if there's anything he could learn anymore. The guy just needs to, get back to the basics. But awesome win by the Panthers. I'm glad I picked them to cover and the over in that game. And the Raiders are who we thought they are. They are the Raiders. Be it Oakland, be it Las Vegas, they are not a good franchise. And in one of our Monday Night Football games, which was very surprising, another embarrassment loss by another supposedly great team, the Washington Commanders pit up almost a 40-piece, 38 points, defeating the lonely 0-3 now Cincinnati Bengals 38-33. Another game that was a 6.5, 7-point spread just comes in, does not come in. The Bengals last year started 1-2, and people may think like, oh, okay, they started like this bad last year, they could turn it around. I think, they won 9 games last year. They went 9-8 or 8-9, and Burrow was hurt for the majority of that season, or a good portion of that season. But like I said in the beginning of this, teams that start 0-3 almost never, the majority do not make the playoffs. One team, I believe, did, the Texans in 2018. So this is not good. I don't care what anybody says. People are saying like, oh yeah, if there's a team to make the playoffs, it's probably this team. But their defense looks awful. Awful. They have no pass rush whatsoever, this team. But let's start with the Washington Commanders. This was the coming out party for Jayden Daniels. The guy looked great. If he's not favored for Rookie of the Year now, he has to be favored for the Rookie Year. I haven't looked in the odds, but he had a great dynamite game. 21 for 23 for 254 yards, 2 touchdowns with a QBR of 93. Only 2 incompletions, okay? And I believe he had 12 carries for 39 yards and another touchdown. So 3 total touchdowns and almost 300 yards total. Great game by him. The Scary Terry, great game by him. Great catch in the corner there. He just burnt that corner. He had 4 receptions for 100 yards and 1 touchdown. Great. Scary Terry was not looking so good, but he looks good in this game. So, and what I think a nice solid pickup by the Commanders was picking Ertz. You need that solid veteran guy who can all catch the ball in traffic, and that's a good piece for Jayden Daniels to learn, and having a reliable tight end for him. Zach Ertz went for 5 receptions, the most receptions of the whole team, for 38 yards, and he had some good key first downs in that game. So that's why he's very important to have for a young rookie quarterback like this. But Jayden Daniels is the story. They had only 32 they only had a total of 32 rushing attempts for 108 yards. Daniels getting the most of that, but I like that they kept with the run. 32 attempts, which is good. Brian Robinson getting the majority of it, 16 for 33, not good on his part. 1 touchdown. And Eckler 3 for 35 for 1 touchdown. That's good. And so, but they kept with the run. It probably wore down the Cincinnati and had them guessing if Daniels was going to pass or rush. But let's get to the Cincinnati, the team that a lot of people had back in the AFC Championship, or hell, maybe back in the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow's best game yet for this season. 29 completions for 38 attempts for 324 yards and 3 touchdowns. A QBR 73, which is good. Chase Brown, which I feel like they should be using him more. I don't know why they're not. 7 carries for 62 yards. Zach Moss, 12 carries for 58 yards and 1 touchdown. Team total, 20 carries for 124 yards at 6.2 yards a clip. Not bad. Jamar Chase, best game so far. 6 receptions, 118 yards, 2 touchdowns. Thank God. I have him in 2 fantasy leagues. About time. Higgins is back, 3 for 39, not too great. Mike Gesicki, I thought it was a solid pickup by them in the offseason. 4 for 47. And the guy, Isoveas, sorry if I cannot pronounce that right, 5 receptions, 52 yards, and 1 touchdown. So this team has weapons. But their defense is just not good. And I think that's been a problem with them. It's always been their offensive line or their defense. They were not getting Daniels. He got sacked twice, but only 2 incompletions. Come on, man. If you watch that game, Daniels had a lot of time. And, we have to start thinking, what can the Bengals do to save their season? It's time to talk about that. 0-3 is no joke. I don't like their head coach. I think they should get rid of him. They're 0-2 at home as well, which is not good. So they need to put it together. I believe their schedule does get easier, the Bengals, after this. Yes, it does. So maybe they could put a few wins together, but this is the 0-3 teams did not make the playoffs. So they have to do something with their pass defense. Go trade for somebody now. If you think you have a chance, they have the offense. Go trade for somebody, and they or see if you get somebody off the street, because they need to. They need to if they want to survive the rest of the season. Another crazy stat that I read, that this game had no turnovers and no punts, and the Bengals are the first team in NFL history that they had no turnovers and no punts and still lost the game. Now this is the first, and so that's embarrassing. So, either team was going to have that record, but still, no punts, no turnovers. That's crazy. So I think this was a great win by the Commanders, and I actually think the Commanders have something here with Jayden Daniels. I think Jayden Daniels is now the third best quarterback in the NFC East. Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts, you could fight over who's the better quarterback there. It's probably Dak, but Jalen Hurts is no slouch. But then there's Daniels, man, 2 years, that guy could be a real problem for this league. An actual, real dual threat quarterback that's accurate and can rush the ball. So that's unfortunate for the NFC East, unfortunate for my Eagles. And Washington might be the biggest threat to the Eagles NFC East. There's something really wrong with the Dallas defense. They're too one-dimensional. The Giants, I'm not at all scary about them. Danny Dimes is their quarterback. So I really truly believe that the Washington Commanders are the biggest threat to the Eagles in the NFC East. So with that, I think a takeaway from this game is that what's up with the Bengals? Their offense is really great. They have all the weapons in the world. I know Chase sat out a majority of it, but when you have Joe Burrow, when you're supposed to have these franchise QBs, they're supposed to win these games. They're supposed to win these games when their weapons are limited. This is why they pay you the big money. Okay, So they got to figure out, they got to fix that defense if they want any chance, okay? So Bengal fans, you might want to yell at them to go trade or sign somebody off the street. But this game was more about Daniel's coming out party and embarrassing the Bengals defense. So the Commanders 2-1, good record so far, surprising me. And the Bengals 0-3 and 0-2 at home. Very, very embarrassing. And in the other Monday Night Football game, and the last one we'll talk about, is the Buffalo Bills absolutely dropping the hammer on the desperate, bummy Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, this from the gate was a blowout. You just knew in the first quarter, like, oh, the Bills are about to pile drive the Jaguars into the ground. 13-0 in the first quarter, and then they scored 21 points in the second quarter. So, I mean, hell, the Bills could have put their backups in the second half and not even worry about it. So, this was just a showing of how good Joe Brady has been for the Bills since he's joined the team. Also, I want to throw out there, Allen, almost a perfect QBR. He had a 98.3, 23 for 30, 263 yards, and 4 TDs. But going back to Joe Brady here, the Bills are 8-1 since joining. They're tied for first in sacks allowed since Joe Brady, and they're averaging 28 points per game since Joe Brady has joined this team. So really, really changed this offense. And people thought when the Bills lost Diggs, oh, who's going to get the ball? Who's getting the ball? Well, I'll tell you what. Shakir getting the ball. Cook, Kincaid, Keon Coleman, Ty Johnson, Curtis Samuel even got involved. They're passing around. They didn't need Diggs. Great decision by them. So let's get a little more in the numbers. Let's start with the Jaguars. 0-3, and I've been saying right, what 0-3 teams, they do not make the playoffs, and this team is not making the playoffs. Calling it now, right now, Jaguars are cooked, they're done, and I think Peterson is getting fired. Okay? Trevor Lawrence and Mac Jones were both sacked a total of 5 times. Not a good look for the Jaguars' offensive line. Only 92 yards rushing. I mean, you have Travis Etienne and Tank, and you're not using him enough. I mean, Travis had 11 carries for 68 yards. Granted, they're getting blown out, but you just can't run away from the rushing offense that quick. Doesn't matter if you're getting blown out. Even if you're down that many points, you got to at least use the running game to open up the passing game. Okay, so Trevor, QBR of 19.8. Jesus Christ, 28 for 38, 178 yards, and 1 touchdown and 1 pick. I'm just going to put this out here. Is Trevor Lawrence a bit overrated? Are we buying a little too much of the hype because he was one of the most, when he was coming out of college, people were comparing him to the greats already, He had so much hype going into the NFL. Is he just a better than average quarterback? Just a good quarterback, not a great quarterback? Or he could be worse. Maybe he's just better than average. It's starting to think that. Or is this just a coaching problem? They need to get rid of this coaching scheme. Because I don't like any of the weapons around him. They lose Riley, okay? I don't know how they thought Christian Kirk and the new guy, Brian Thomas Jr., was a good replacement. Because and Gabe Davis. I don't think anybody is scared of those 3 guys. None whatsoever. Now, granted, they don't have their tight end, Ingram, who I like a lot. Really fast tight end, good hands. But I don't like him. Who's scared of their offense? Nobody. I like Travis Etienne. Forgive me if I'm saying that wrong. But other than that, I don't think they don't scare nobody. I don't think, though. I mean, like I said, Trevor Lawrence, 21 for 38. The Bills' defense now is better than I thought it was. So that's a good move by them. But, their only bright spot was Travis and Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk, 8 receptions, 79 yards, no TDs. So, the Jaguars, I believe, are cooked. Like I said, they are not making the playoffs. Trevor Lawrence, just 2 touchdowns and 1 pick for the season so far. That's it. 1 for 4 in the red zone. This is not good. This is not. I don't know how they're going to, how they can hang their hat on this. Like, hey, we could do it next week. They can't. They didn't even sack Allen, and Allen, he likes to run out there. Sometimes he makes some little hero ball mistake, a little too much Superman where you could get to him. Now he's a beast; he could knock down a lot of guys, but no sacks. They allowed 388 total yards. Just the Jaguars need to prepare for a top 10 pick in this year's draft. They need to think about getting Trevor Lawrence more weapons. Jared Allen looks like he's the favorite for the MVP. 7 passing touchdowns, no interceptions so far, and 2 rushing touchdowns, so 9 total touchdowns. No picks without Diggs, who Diggs thought he was, they're going to be awful without him. So, Bill, he's spreading the ball around Buffalo, looks really great. Blowout win. This says more about the Bills, that they are a legit team and they possibly will be there in the end, maybe representing the AFC. I could see him actually going to the AFC conference, the AFC championship. And Jaguars, like I said, prepare for a top 10 pick. You guys are cooked. Nobody's scared of your offense. Your defense is disarrayed. Nobody's getting to the quarterback. So, yeah, I don't know. Is Trevor Lawrence a good quarterback? I'll let you guys decide. So, guys, that is the Week 3 recap of the NFL this season, and just craziness so far. Just so much craziness. It's a bloodbath out there for favorites. So many favorites, 6.5, 7, 7.5, 8, who are favorite are not covering. I mean, it is just insane. Only a couple teams I could think of covered. The Buffalo Bills covered. The Jets covered. So there's just a lot of teams that are just not covering with these big numbers. Seattle covered them. They covered their points at 4. So, wow, just I can't remember the last time so many favorites did not cover any of the lines. But maybe this is will all correct itself when the season goes around. A lot of people don't play their starters in the preseason, so maybe that's why. But I don't know, just craziness right now in the NFL week. And I think there's no true number 1 team in the NFL that would you see and like, wow, they're going to just steamroll people. I think the closest you get is the Bills. I think Bills is number 1. I know the Chiefs are undefeated as well and they defeated all 3 of their opponents, but all 3 of their opponents, they've been squeaking by. And they don't have Pachenko for a few weeks or maybe several weeks. So I don't think it's that cut and dry. And the NFC, who do you like the most? The Seahawks? I don't see. They haven't played nobody. I'm a little biased, but I like how if the Eagles could put it together, they would have been 3-0, and that means they're beating the Falcons or the Saints. But they didn't beat the Falcons. So, and they have some sketchy coaching decisions by Sirianni, so I believe he'll hold them back in some games. So, I don't know if there's a true number 1 team in this league. A lot of good teams, a lot of playoff teams all have bad records now. Miami 1-2, they made the playoffs. Baltimore, these are all teams that made the playoffs that have under 500. Miami 1-2, Baltimore 1-2, Browns 1-2, Rams 1-2, Dallas 1-2, Rams and 49ers. I'm sorry, I said the Rams twice, and 49ers 1-2. And good teams that were on the cusp of making the playoffs last year, Cincinnati and Jaguars, both 0-3. So, and possibly both of those teams don't make the playoffs. So, a lot of craziness this week in the NFL. Bloodbath for favorites. I'm sure another week where parlays got killed. Survival pools definitely got killed with, I'm sure, a lot of people at Cincinnati, the Buccaneers to win their games. And San Francisco winning, they probably had too. So many upsets, So I don't know. Who do you guys think will make the playoffs so far? 1 and 3, this week 3 in the NFL. So I don't know. It's crazy out there. It's fun as well, though, seeing all this craziness. Even though if you lost money or if I lost money, but it's still fun to see. But it is great, crazy. I can't wait to see who comes out of this. Hopefully it's my Eagles. Well, guys, so that is the recap of the NFL Week 3 I want to thank you guys for watching my small channel break this down. I love doing this. And please, if you do me a favor, like and subscribe. That'd be really great. Helps out the channel. It's free. You don't have to worry about it. And just tell me what you think, what I could do or not do better. You know, I'm willing to have open ears and hear anything you guys suggest, or opinions or praise, whatever. It's all fun. I'm love doing this, like I said. So thank you for tuning in. It was a bloodbath for favorites. It was a bloodbath and NBA parlays and survival picks, like I said. And I'll stay tuned for my MLB picks, which, by the way, did really well. My MLB picks. Check those guys. I do shorts for those. So tune in for my picks. My picks for week 4 of the NFL. Can't wait to do them and do the research on them. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you guys join me. So with that, see you guys later, and I'll see you in the next one.